Okay, so there is no public API or source code for Genie 3 as of yet, so we don't know exactly how it's built, but I created this Python code in ChatGPT so you can see what the Genie 3 code likely is built like. And now again, this is not as complex, obviously, as the Genie 3 code will be, but it's meant to give you an idea because none of this information is public as of yet. Also, I'm likely going to name this video something like the Unreal Engine 5 Killer. So if you're exclusively interested in how this information compares to Unreal Engine 5, I'll put timestamps down below and you can jump ahead to see exactly what this is and how it compares to Unreal Engine 5. But right here, I'm going to explain the kind of four main ways that Genie 3 is built and the technology that it's using. So if you're interested in that, you can watch right here and then maybe you can skip ahead to the Unreal Engine 5 information. But if you don't know what Genie 3 is, kind of like a basic outline, Genie 3 creates dynamic worlds based off of text or image prompts in real time. The real time is kind of like the key thing there. It's currently limited to 24 frames a second, 720p resolution, and I have seen some different inconsistencies with this, but as far as I can tell, it has like a 1 to 2 minute temporal consistency, meaning that's limited to 1 or 2 minutes of real-time information. In the preview that they showed for this, they had like paint on the wall and then you walk away and then the paint is still there when you come back. That's like a 1 to 2 minute long window, and then eventually it will start to forget the paint, right? The longer it goes, the more temporal inconsistencies you're going to have in this real-time environment, right? And I'll get into why that's all the case in a little bit down the line. But first, I want to kind of talk about exactly how this technology works. So number one, this isn't a game engine like Unreal Engine 5. I'm comparing this a lot to Unreal Engine 5 because that's what I've used the most personally. But this isn't a game engine like Unreal Engine 5. This isn't using physics like Unreal Engine 5, like ray tracing and nanites and things like that. This is an autoregressive transformer type of model architecture. Primarily meaning that it's using its last frame in order to create the next frame. So this is how your traditional LLM works. If you use something like Suno AI, this is how Suno AI works. This is how a lot of AI models work, right? In order to predict the next thing, it reviews the last thing that it made, right? Again, this is 24 frames a second, so it's reviewing the last frame that came right before it in order to create the next frame, right? Again, this is how your traditional LLM works, right? And I'll put an example here on screen. There's a sentence, and your traditional LLM is guessing what the next word is on the sentence based off of the sentence itself and the last word used in the sentence, right? So that's how an autoregressive transformer model is actually working, right? And in order to remember what the last word is, and this is the second part, it's using implicit memory modules, right? So this is using specifically an RNN style implicit memory module, right? So it's short-term, it's a short-term memory, right? But there are multiple different types of memory that your traditional AI is using. This RNN style memory, again, it's short-term and it's meant to just show kind of the last word or the last frame that's been used in order to predict the next frame that's going to be used, right? Again, it has a, as far as I can tell, 1 to 2 minute temporal consistency, meaning that in this real-time environment, it can only remember for about 1 to 2 minutes before it's going to start having inconsistencies and it's going to start forget information, and the environment is going to start changing and not remembering inputs that you have put into it, right? So the third thing is a multimodal embedding layer. So I kind of alluded to this earlier. A multimodal embedding layer, you're putting your inputs in and you want the same output coming out, right? So when you're using text or image or video, AI doesn't know what that information is. So in order to understand what all that information is, it's transferring all the information to a mathematical formula or a vector, right? So again, a multimodal embedding layer is transferring your text or all of your images, multiple different inputs into the same data so that AI can understand it, right? So it's taking your text, it's taking your images, your pixels, right? Your video, your frames, and it's transferring all of this into a mathematical formula, a vector, so that it can understand this information, then it can transfer it into a Python code, and then it can take that Python code and create 3D images and 3D video from it, right? Finally, it's also using differential render architecture, right? So this is kind of the main difference between Genie 3 and your traditional like Unreal Engine model, right? Unreal Engine doesn't learn, right, as time goes on, whereas Genie 3 does learn, right? So if you ask Genie 3 to create an apple, it's going to go in its data set, it's going to see all the information that it has on apples, and it's going to create an apple based on what like text prompt you gave it, right? Giant apple, small apple, green apple, red apple, whatever your variable text is going to create this apple for you. And then it's going to compare this apple to like a picture or video of a real apple, right? And it's going to create a better apple next time because it learned from this apple and from comparing this apple to a real apple. So again, the biggest difference with this, and I'm going to get into this in a second, but the biggest difference with Genie 3 comparatively to something like Unreal Engine 5 is that Genie 3 is constantly learning from you. It's learning from your inputs, it's learning from its own data set, and it is improving over time, whereas Unreal Engine is kind of like consistent and it doesn't change over time, right? It kind of stays the same, which again is why I think Genie 3 is going to be better than Unreal Engine, if it's not already going to be better than in a very, very short period of time. Better 3D images over time, 3D geometry, like textures, mesh, voxels, lighting, shading, and cameras, right? These are all things that, like, if you use Unreal Engine 5, you can adjust all these variables inside of that engine, right? So again, the main differences between Genie 3 versus Unreal Engine is that Genie 3 is using NeRF, which is neural radiance fields, and it's using rasterized voxel grids, whereas Unreal Engine is using nanites, lumens, ray tracing, and PBR shading, right? So ray tracing, for example, we all know how ray tracing is, right? You've seen it in video games, right? Ray tracing is how light really works. With shadows, with reflections, with refractions, billions of light particles and simulations in order to recreate the actual real physics of light, right? Whereas Genie 3, again, is using NeRF, which is data used for 3D scans on a neural network. So, and you can do this with your phone, right? I've done it with my phone where you can kind of like do a video scan of an object, right? You can just kind of go around an object, you can scan it in your phone, and you can take and you scan all around it, 360 in the top and the bottom of it, right? And you can input all that information into your computer, and then your computer can kind of create a 3D image for you based off the information that you inputted into it, right? Sometimes you have to take pictures of the object, right? You give it as much data as you can, and the more data you give it, the better of an apple that it'll create for you digitally, right? So it's not recreating the actual physics, it's kind of creating a fake 3D voxel grid of the 3D image that you want, right? So it's not using mesh or textures, again, it's using 3D voxels, right? So this kind of goes into the idea of why Genie 3 is currently limited to 24 frames a second into 720p resolution and kind of that 1 to 2 minute temporal consistency, right? Because if you've used Unreal Engine, or even if you've used something like Cyberpunk, which the Cyberpunk didn't use Unreal Engine, it uses their proprietary engine. But I think the new Witcher is going to use the Unreal Engine 5. But if you use Unreal Engine, or if you played Cyberpunk when it first came out, games crash, right? Unreal Engine crashes all the time. I've used Unreal Engine a ton. And I used it like at my college where we had, huge computer and we had our own server room, and it would still crash, right? If you have too many digi doubles in a scene or something like that, if you just have too much information in a scene, you'll crash. And you know this if you play video games, right? If you have too many things happening on screen at one time, that'll crash the system. So right now, Genie 3 is being limited to these kind of confinements as a way to not essentially break it, right? Because for most video games, we all know, right? You want to play a video game at 4K resolution. You want to play it at 60 frames a second, minimum 60 frames a second. I think most of us would prefer 120 frames a second, right? And you can't do that with Genie 3, right? Again, it's limited to that 720p resolution, to that 24 frames a second, again, to kind of limit the amount of crashes or freezes that can potentially take place within the system, right? I keep wanting to call it an engine. It's not an engine. Right, so rasterized voxel grid is essentially fake light, right? It's recreating what it thinks light is based off of its data set, whereas ray tracing in Unreal Engine is using an actual physics engine to do billions of simulations in order to kind of recreate what light would actually do in the environment, right? And if you try to, we had an LED wall that I've used, right? And it can create, we can move the environment around like in real time in our LED wall using Unreal Engine, but again, it's prone to crashes because it's trying to do these simulations in real time, which it just can't, right? It's too hard on the GPU. It takes up too much storage, too much information, which is again why they have all these limitations on Genie 3. Now, Unreal Engine obviously would have better fidelity, right? If it's using real light-based physics in order to create its graphics, it's obviously going to have better fidelity. But again, part of the reason why I think that Genie 3 could be the Unreal Engine killer over time is because it's learning, right? In order to update Unreal Engine 5, you have to have real coders, real engineers go in and update the system, whereas the Genie 3 model will update on its own. It's going to improve itself by itself without us humans having to do anything, right? So I think it's possible, even if Genie 3 or Genie 4 or whatever comes out, it will improve. It will improve over Unreal Engine over time, just because it can learn from itself, right? Going back to what the differential render architecture, right? It's going to constantly compare itself to real life images and real life physics, and it's going to just constantly improve over time. And because it's using less GPU power, less storage, and that'll always allow it to be able to work in real time, right? And that temporal consistency means that you can't just say like, hey, prompt me 1,000 dragons or something and break the system, because it might prompt you those 1,000 dragons, but then in a minute they'll disappear, right? Because it has that limitation on it specifically, so it doesn't crash or freeze or break the system. So yeah, that learning component. So if you click on the video specifically, why do I think this will be the Unreal Engine killer? I do think the learning component of this AI will improve it over Unreal Engine over time, not right away. Unreal Engine wasn't, the best system in the world right away. It was still competing with Unity, but now Unreal Engine 5 is kind of like the universal engine that pretty much everybody, I think, but Rockstar is using essentially. So yeah, that's why I think Genie 3 will be used. Also, obviously, if you like the video, I would appreciate it. Also, if you want, I make sunglasses, or kind of like repurpose sunglasses. We buy them and then we fix them up and we do 3D printing and stuff like that. So if you are looking for a new pair of sunglasses, summer's ending, but we sell these sunglasses specifically for like clubs and festivals and stuff like that. So if you're looking for a pair of sunglasses for like your nightclub experience, or your EDM show or your music festival, check these out. I'll have a link in the description below. Deuces.